My name's Noah, I'm the co-founder of Future Fulfilment, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the most controversial things that I do as a founder. I think one thing that people trip out on is the fact that we house a lot of our employees in this house that we're in right now. This is called the manor, which is our office. But yeah, we constantly have employees living here. It's the halfway house, always moving in and out. We buy everyone gym memberships, we work together, we live together, we party together. And sometimes people have a hard time wrapping their head around that kind of culture. Yeah, I've always been interested in this idea of evaporating the work-life boundaries and balance. I think that when you're in a job, you're in a role that's like totally aligned with your passion and your interests, then work-life balance doesn't exist. It all becomes one. And you work and you live, and it's just like you get into the rhythm of that. So when you set up in a house like this, an experience like this, where people are eating together and we're always gathering, and it's a community vibe, and on weekends, the office is just as alive as it is on weekdays. So when you've got that kind of environment, I feel like it promotes that kind of work ethic and that passion for what we're all doing. This happens as well. We have like these 40-year-old CEOs, whether they're suppliers or clients or whatever, come into the manor to meet with us, and they just kind of like look left and right, and they're like, what is going on here? They see the sound system, they see the piano, they see people everywhere, there's bedrooms. And I think to them it's really foreign. I was on a podcast with Mark Burris a few weeks ago, and we had a conversation about exactly this, where he felt a lot of his staff would rock up to work, do their job, and then go home to their families. And that was like that separation. And we were speaking about that, and I told him that, you know, every time we bring on a new team member at Future, I really get to know what they want outside of business. What are their life goals? And then how do you align those life goals with what we're doing at Future? Because then Future then becomes the vehicle for them to achieve everything in their life. So an example is like, someone might be like, you know, I really want to start investing and, you know, get my first property. So then we sit down and we go, okay, over the next 2-3 years, like if this is what your salary looks like, how much can you save? What are your expenses? And we work with them. So then when they get 2 years down the track, they're buying their first investment, and Future's part of the reason that they were able to get there. Or someone, you know, a lot of the staff want to travel, and because we're an international business, we have opportunities for people to go remote. You know, I've got 2 girls flying to Athens next week to go shoot at our Athens warehouse. Great way for them to not only see the world, but also work for Future and get it done. So yeah, that's the big difference, I think. So Future is not my first business. I've had some e-commerce brands in the past. I ran an agency that I built and sold over a few years. And with all of these companies, I've always loved bringing people together, doing things differently, and building cultures. I think that if you get the culture piece right, you get the energy piece right, everything else flows so much better because people are aligned, they're on the same mission. And of course, I say this more and more now to people, I think the most important thing in business is that you're having fun. That's it. If you're having fun with the people that you're doing with, the highs become even higher and the lows become bearable because you can laugh about it, you know, in hindsight. So, amazing. Yeah. That's a good one. A lot of faces on this call. Hey, everyone. Sorry, Sarah, you keep going. Yeah. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Darren, I'll take a step back for now, just quickly.
Yeah, that's a great question. So you're manufacturing in China. Orders come through. They flow straight to the warehouse as long as they're in before 2 p.m. China time. It's same-day dispatch. But look, we work around the clock. So when Chinese New Year rolls around, we don't stop. There's no holidays. We've got a day shift and a night shift at the warehouse. So, you know, I think at peak, the warehouse will do a few 100,000 orders a day. That's during like big China domestic sale periods. So we can handle that kind of capacity. We're going to head to some of the warehouses and we're going to go for a skate. It's good to have you back, Daniel.
No, it's good to see you, my bro.
It's been a while since we shot like this on camera, so I'm really excited to share more of my day-to-day, have some honest chats about what's going on in my world, and give you an insight to what it's like running a business like Future. What's up? All right, let's go. We just spoke to a brand, they're called Front Runner. an apparel brand, and they're interested in using our China facility, which is cool. Sales call went well. Sarah crushed it. It's been a while since I actually took some sales calls. It's good being back in the trenches. I moved back to Melbourne a year and a half ago after spending nearly 2 years in Indonesia, which was great. And when I came back, I was super intentional about my geo, my location and my proximity to everything. So I live 500 meters from my office, so I can, walk up every day. I live 500 meters from my gym, St. Haven, which is, where I go to unwind. They've got some incredible bathhouses there and other amenities. And then my supermarket is like across the road. It's like I literally don't even need a car. And I was very intentional about that. It's kind of funny because I was in Melbourne during COVID when they locked this city down, and we had we were limited to these small radiuses. And at the time it was the worst thing ever. The government, why the fuck are they making us stay in these 5K radiuses? And to be honest, now my radius is 1 kilometer. I literally rarely,
awesome, mate.
Bro, I rarely leave the suburb. Most of the time, if I'm leaving my suburb, I'm going overseas. That's literally it. Otherwise, I just stay in the hood. Else think you like. I feel like I've always pursued a balanced life. I've definitely had seasons of my life where I haven't had balance, and it's been go, 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 work. And also seasons where I've shut off and I've, spent a few months completely disconnecting, which have also been, beneficial. But I have a lot of different interests. I'm really into music. I started building speakers recently. I still study the piano. I'm going deep on that and broadening my skills on that instrument. Now that my boy Daniel behind the camera is in town, we've been hitting the skate park, had a skate at St. Kilda last night. So it's all these things that I do. I still live. I enjoy everything. So, put in huge days at work, but then always making time for hobbies and interests and passions. A good way to look at it, I think, is all of the things, you're never too old.
No.
I feel like people get to a certain age and they just think that all they should be doing is working on business, making money. And yes, that's important. Making money is very important, and I strive to do that. But all of the interests that my younger self had, I try and keep alive. You got to feed that inner child. I think my advice for any founders coming up that are starting to build teams is lean into the unconventional with what you're doing. I worked in a corporate environment when I was 19 years old, and I lasted about 4 months. But this idea of rocking up to an office building and sitting in a cubicle and having the same kind of Friday night drinks at the end of every week, and that was the big team cultural event, that was just not it.
No.
It just absolutely zaps your energy. It's uninspiring for your team. And if you want to attract top tier talent, you need to create a top tier environment for them to work in. So I would say that, my first office was my apartment. I just used what I had, and we just set up my second bedroom, had my first employee start there, and we would just, we'd go to cafes and always mixing up our environment to work in. And at that stage I had nothing, but I was still putting in energy into how can we make our working environment inspiring every single day. And then, you saw the manor. We should do a video touring the manor one day, Dan.
100%.
But take that, for example, we rented a 10-bedroom house instead of a traditional office. And it, people walk into that office and they're like, what is this? What kind of environment is this? And it's inspiring. Yeah, I would say be unconventional with your office environment and how you structure your team, work culture, because especially in this day and age, where everyone wants to work from home, how do you get them back into the office?
You're always hiring even when you don't have a role open. Why is this?
This is true. We are always hiring. Even when we don't have a role open, we're constantly hiring people. And the reason being is because so often one person has come into any one of my organizations and within 2 weeks has completely transformed the business. Like, those people are out there. And to find them, it's really like a quantity game. Like, I think when it comes to HR and employing people, quantity equals quality. You know, 1 in every 5, 1 in every 10 people are going to be those absolute superstars that change the game. So we're always looking for people with new ideas. It's also when you're, take content, for example. I'm running a lot of paid advertising and organic channels. And when I've been in something for, Future just turned 5 years old. So I've been doing the same thing for 5 years. It's so powerful having someone with an outside perspective who hasn't been in the business come in with fresh eyes and fresh ideas, just to reinvigorate strategy and reinvigorate what it is you're doing. So I'm really open to not just hiring employees, but also we're constantly hiring consultants. Like, for example, with this whole AI thing that's happened recently, 4 months ago, I'd never written a line of code in my life. And then, Claude Code started changing that. So we flew over a consultant from Thailand who lived at the manor for a month. We also hired another consultant who was this guy in Melbourne who's really onto it. And I literally just spent weeks with them locked up in a room, closed the curtains, like blacked it out. We just went deep on AI for like 2 weeks. That's all we did. I was doing like 14-hour days on Claude Code at this stage with these consultants. And then after a few weeks, they went back to what they're doing, and we still stay in touch. But like that sprint with those consultants, those ideas unlocked so much in my mind that I didn't have before. And that's just the power of hiring people and working with other people that are better than you at what it is you're trying to do. I would say that hiring for personality over skills every single time. Every day of the week, I'm hiring for personality, not skills. You cannot train personality. Someone's either hungry or not. Someone either has that determination for learning and getting better every single day, or they don't. So it's like I can teach anyone how to become an ad buyer, or I can teach someone who has a foundation understanding of content how to make engaging content or content that's going to convert. But I'm not going to be able to make sure that they're a cultural fit or have the personality traits that we look for, which is like ambition. We want entrepreneurs. So this idea of entrepreneurship is something that we look for, and that is someone working within an organization with all the qualities and all the power of an entrepreneur. So like we look for people that can really own certain departments and certain sections of the business and treat each department like its own business. And that's what we're looking for. People that like problem solving, people that can build systems, people that can bring people together and build teams and lead teams. These are very, very good skills. And personality is a big part of this. So we currently have teams across China, New Zealand, Australia, Bali, and Europe at Future. The question I get sometimes is how do we, make that work with such a global team? And I mean, technology is unbelievable. I'll give you an example of how technology helps with remote teams. So we use a platform called Feishu for our China operation. And Feishu is like a super app. It's basically all the functionalities of Slack and Zoom and base tables, all of this all in one. And sometimes I'm sitting on calls with the China team and there's not a lick of English being spoken. And Feishu has this inbuilt translator. So I can sit on a call and as my team's talking, I get an English transcription of what's being said in real time. And this thing works. It's so fast. And then I can respond in English and they get the Chinese version on their end. And it works for like fully fluent conversations, backwards and forwards, like so good. We're here. We made it. Hey. Hey.
Long time.
Long time. Everything good?
Everything's good. Everything's good.
Are you going to be here or will you be at Sully at all? floating between all three. So are they popping off still?
Candy claws.
How are they going right now?
Yeah.
It's insane. This brand, bro.
Really? Gone crazy.
Oh,
Yeah,
like
no,
you wouldn't
from-
believe.
Like-
So we're here at one of our warehouse locations. We actually have 14 of these around the world, in Australia, New Zealand, China, and Greece. And taking you back 5 years ago when we actually started the business, in terms of being controversial, a lot of people thought, A, we were either going to fail, and B, we had absolutely no experience, so we were very naive. And looking back, that was our superpower at the time, because this is an age-old industry, logistics, and we came in with a completely different model. So rather than having like a few big warehouses, we have multiple small warehouses with small teams. We take on 30 to 40 brands in each warehouse, and it's just a completely different model. These smaller warehouses allow us to give next level customer support, because rather than just being a brand in like a sea of other brands, you're one of 30 in a warehouse, and you can call the warehouse manager on their direct line, and we really are an extension of your team. But it wasn't always like this. Like when we first opened our very first warehouse, a truck pulled up with our very first client, and we didn't have a forklift. So everyone just kind of looked at the truck and all these pallets on the forklift, and we were like, well, how do we get it off? And the truck driver was like, dude, you need a forklift. So then one of the neighbors ended up coming around with his forklift and unloaded the stock for us. Then we realized, okay, we got to buy one of these things. It's just crazy to think about that. You know, now we've got like 350 employees around the world. I don't know how many forklifts we have, be a lot. If you've got an idea for a business and you genuinely think that there's an opportunity here because you found a gap in the market or something, a lot of people will try and talk it out of you. And mum and dad and friends and family, they're often the worst people to get advice from as well, because they're totally biased. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is the more disruptive, controversial your idea and your angle is, often they're the businesses that really take off and succeed. And Future was definitely that. I could have easily been talked out of doing this by a ton of different people, but Nick and I had the vision and we stuck with it. And 5 years later, we built this business. We're a big family here at Future. You know that? We're literally family, all of us. It's good. So we're gonna have a quick skate, get the blood pumping. Everyone's trying to like look the part. I think for me though, I've just always tried to keep it real, and the amount of people that I meet, like, when I go out or, through the skateboarding community, man, even Daniel behind the lens, we met from skateboarding. It's like, that's my crew and nothing will ever change like that. So I would love to promote this idea of people just being 100% authentic and also breaking the mold of what like you should look like when you're doing things. Because I honestly think there's so much more room for people that are just like unique, and also when you take the market by surprise, it's good. Be the underdog and surprise people. Yeah, I mean, now that I think about it, skateboarding's taught me so much in life and in business. Number one being, when you get absolutely pummeled into the concrete, you get back up and you try again. And that stuck with me, like growing up skateboarding. And it's the same thing with like music, for example. I was explaining to this person the other day that I started getting mentored again to get better at the piano. And some of my best business ideas are literally when I leave piano lessons. It's crazy. And that the big concept there is like getting out of your head and into your body, into your heart, into your gut to make decisions. Because we're so limited by our minds. We put these ceilings on ourselves, and we also have these ideas of how things should be done and all these rules that we make up in our heads. And that goes for music, that goes for skateboarding, that goes for business, that goes for everything. And when you can step outside of that and you're not afraid to do things differently or get lost in the process or get hurt and get back up, then that's when you really start progressing as a person and you hit and unlock new levels. honestly, I think if I could have people take one thing away from this video, it's that all of these things that may seem unconventional that I'm doing are simply things that just inspire me and give me energy. And those are the things you should be focused on. If it inspires you, do it. Even if no one else is doing it around you, just cut your own trail, you know, walk your own path kind of thing. And just know that in this day and age, especially with like all of the tools and the internet that we have available to us, anything's possible, man. You can do anything. However you want to do it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You feel me? You feel me?